Today, I'm talking with the amazing Sophia Parra, an incredible marketing coach. This conversation spoke to my soul. It was just what I needed to hear as someone who is struggling to be, quote, consistent on social media while also wanting to be smart and intentional. She dives into the three main areas that you should be focusing on and nothing else to keep your marketing simple. And this was such a refreshing message. Sophia has a proven record for increasing a brand's following, engagement, and reach. She has helped people go from 800 to 50,000 followers and increase opportunities for podcasts, magazine, and even TV features. She is the host of Marketing Unfiltered podcast, sharing practical marketing tips that coaches can implement without a 17-person team. She is a wealth of knowledge while also always keeping it 100% real. You'll see what I mean. Hey friend, welcome to the Badass is the New Black podcast, where our motto is done is better than perfect. I'm Chrissy Chin, here on a mission to help you grow your business online, turn your leads into lifelong customers, and scale to six figures and beyond so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more. Most importantly, I'm a laid-back wife, a mom, a friend who started as a peds nurse, turned network marketer, and now a serial entrepreneur. This podcast is for ambitious people with an idea, a vision, but no idea how to get there. On this podcast, I'll give actionable steps to keep you moving forward while you learn new business strategies, better systems and processes, marketing, sales, all the things you need to build and scale a blissful business that keeps your pocketbooks growing. Grab a beverage, open up your notes app, and let's get to it. Sophia, welcome to the podcast. It's been a long time coming. I'm glad you are finally here, girlfriend.
I am so glad I'm finally here as well. It really has been a long time coming, hasn't it?
It has. Friends, this is another amazing woman from the Mixer Mind. Everyone's going to be like, what is this Mixer Mind thing? It seems like those are the only people that I'm having on the podcast, but it's because y'all are so amazing and you just have such great juicy topics that I just want to bring them here for the audience. And I'm excited to talk to you about social media and about marketing and how to simplify marketing today, because I am feeling like I am in this spiral currently where it's like, gotta get social media posts out there. And then it's like days go by and then I'm like, oh my God, I haven't done anything. Or this idea pops up and I'm like, oh, I could post this, but I'm
Oh,
like
yeah.
in the moment or being present. So I just like jot a note down and then like, I don't do it. And then I'm like, should I go back and do it? I'm feeling less inspired now. So I'm excited to just get into this conversation. There's a couple things that you also talk about that are not quite what people think, like, or
Mhm.
how they think. So I'm excited to dive into that. But let's just kind of dive into like how you got into this.
Yeah, seriously, that's such a big question. And like, I barely know the answer to it, to be honest. It was such an accident. Like, I actually started out adulthood as an actress, living in New York City. And I was on Blue Bloods this one fine day. And weirdly enough, just random side note, the clip that I was in one scene on Blue Bloods. And for some reason, it's a clip about like an arrest happening. And that clip went viral like maybe a month ago. And like I said, I filmed this 10 years ago. So it was
Oh my
so
God.
random. And suddenly all these people are messaging this clip to me being like, you have a twin. This is insane. I'm like, nope, that's me,
That's
just 10
me.
years younger.
Oh my gosh. That's so crazy that 10
Yeah,
years after and this clip went viral.
I know. So freaking random. But it was actually on that, like that day, filming that scene when someone introduced me to this thing called Instagram. And they were calling it like an online photo album. And like I said, completely brand new to it. I'll like not tell the full story because it can get a little long, but long story short, I signed up for it. I was like, this is so exciting. I like love photo albums. I didn't really grasp the social side of it though. I thought it was a private photo album, so I posted a picture of my husband in his underwear.
Oh my gosh. You're like, yeah, this is just for me, right? Or
Exactly. I
the
was
whole
like,
world.
and suddenly I got like a lot of comments on it and I realized, "Oh my gosh, this is definitely not private." And I also then realized in that like same moment, okay, there's some power in here. I mean, people are seeing this. So I started promoting my episode of Blue Bloods that hadn't come out yet. And I'm not saying this is the reason this happened, but that episode ended up being like the most viewed episode of all time. And it was like season 11 or something. Like that's like, it was like really random.
Oh, wow.
And they emailed us saying, oh my gosh, like this is really weird, but like this is the most viewed episode of all time. Congratulations, cast and crew. And I attribute it to, again, I'm sure this had in some ways nothing to do with me, but at the same time, in the moment, it kind of unlocked something in me. I was like, okay, I may or may not have attributed to this buzz. I also have like a massive freaking family with of 11 aunts and uncles on just one side. So it could have also been that. But either way, I was like, there's some buzz that happened here. And my family, my contacts, they all knew about this part because of Instagram. And that
Mm.
had never happened for me before, right? I didn't have a way to market myself. I kind of relied on these other studios to do that. So that's kind of how it fell into my lap. And I started really focusing on social media. I started an agency where I assisted 6, 7, and 8-figure coaches for about 6 years. Totally burnt myself out. Moved to London, was forced to change my business model because the time zone, to be quite honest. And now I educate people on simplifying their marketing because of the amount of times I have just gotten so freaking burnt out over trying to make this marketing stuff work. I mean, the amount of content we have online telling us all the things we need to be doing or our business is going to fail, it has an effect on people like me who work in the marketing space as well. And so through my husband's stroke, where I had to continue paying our bills, through my dad dying of cancer, where I had to I moved in to take care of him, and I also had to be continuing to like pay my bills. I really had to figure out how to create systems around my life where so often shit was hitting the fan and I was struggling to just take care of life stuff and then take care of business stuff. So it's really become a passion. And like I said, it wasn't where I intended on going. I thought I was going to be like an Oscar winning actor at this point. But it became a passion and I can truly say I wouldn't want to go back to being an actor. So yeah, that's how I landed here.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard that story before. I love
Yeah.
that. It's so incredible. And it is like it's shifted, right? It is not just a photo album anymore. And like it's
God, no.
always like Instagram is always changing and all the social platforms are always changing and how we find people. But the one thing that I has stayed consistent is if you want people to find you and if you want people to continue to connect with you there, you have to
Yeah.
be consistent. And that I think is like the biggest struggle and hurdle for people is there's so much going on. So many of us, we are like living our regular lives, and there's so much being thrown at us all the time, whether it's personal health challenges or family things that are happening or just whatever, like you name it, and it's happened to someone who's listening, right? And so it is hard to keep up. And
Yeah.
so I am curious as to how you guide your clients and the people that you're helping into simplify this process to make sure that what they're doing is the thing that is most important and
Yeah.
moving the needle.
Yes. Okay. I'm so glad that you are asking me this question. So one thing that I will start by saying is, and this is not part of the thing that how I'm gonna answer your question, but I think it needs to be said.
Okay.
And that is consistency does matter. You're so correct in that. However, for me, I feel like it goes one step further. It's being consistent about sharing a specific message, right? And because I think that people, when we hear consistency, we almost give ourselves permission to send a boring email every single week or just post a picture of our lattes as we're walking and think, I posted today, check, look at me being relevant, you know? And I think the problem with that is that's not actually communicating something that's going to move your business or your mission forward, right? It's showing up, in my opinion, is not the same as sharing a message. And I say that because if that means that if that takes more time for you and you can only share your message clearly and well once a week instead of every single day, like do that. That is actually better than just posting bullshit every single day, you know?
Right.
Um, so the step one of anything is know what the heck you want to be known for. Like, what is the actual message you want people to walk away with by being in your orbit for a few minutes, even, right? We should be so consistent and repetitive about that. And I think this is another piece. people get really in their head about the consistency thing because they're like, but I just sound like I'm saying the same thing again and again and again. Girl or boy or whoever, that's great. If you do not feel like a broken record, if you do not feel like redundant AF, like you're probably not sharing your message enough, right? So
Mhm.
for me, that's a big, big, big thing to communicate with people because I think it takes it off of our plate as consistency equals daily or consistency equals just show up to show up. What if consistency was actually about being clear, right? Clearly communicating that message on a regular enough basis for me to associate that message with you. That for me is consistency. So, with that in mind, there are three questions I ask myself, right, when it comes to simplifying my marketing. That is, what am I doing to grow? What am I doing to nurture? And what am I doing to sell? And I ask myself this question on a quarterly basis, right? So that means every single quarter, I have very specific actions around growing, around selling, and around nurturing. Now, I want to break down each of these specifically because I think it can be really easy for us to project our own definitions on these things. So let's just be really freaking clear here. Growing is specifically about an audience, but to be honest, I actually want to make it an email list audience. I love the idea of thinking I'm going to grow my social media audience and then convert them to be an email audience. Cool. Then we need to have that system in place so that actually works. Until it lands on your email list, it's not considered growth. And I want us to give us that metric because, well, you'll see in a second, this is going to help us make sure that we're doing the right efforts to achieve each of these things.
Okay, pause. What Sophia just shared here is gold. You must turn your followers into email subscribers. I've created a free guide for you to walk you through exactly what you need and how to do this so that you can turn followers into email subscribers. So just click the show notes, the link will be there or below this video, and grab the Turn Your Followers into Subscribers free guide and training. I'm going to teach you again exactly how to do this, what you need, and how to automate the process with ManyChat. The training is 5 minutes. You can literally set it up in 3 minutes to automate this process of people sending you messages or comments, and then you send via the automation your freebie straight to their DMs so that you can have more time to focus on your marketing or whatever it is that you want to be doing with your time.
Nurturing. Nurturing is not about passively emailing your list every week or posting to social media. This is about actually having conversations. If conversations are not happening inside of your orbit, your nurturing is not being achieved. So again, that does not, if we are posting a lot of content and emailing all the time and no one is responding or being active with us, this could mean the content itself isn't asking for that, and then we need to investigate that, right?
Mhm.
Or it means we're not creating specific nurture events, right? So for me, I actually host a Q&A day once a quarter to my text list. That's the medium of choice for me. And the reason that I do that is because on that day, I send an email to my list. I say free coaching today only, 9 to 3 p.m. Send me your questions. And I have a blocked off on that day, and I spend the entire day just answering people's marketing questions. That is a nurturing event because all of those people, it's a couple of things are happening. They're raising their hands and saying, Sophia, I'm watching you. I'm looking at you. Like I'm ready here. I'm looking for solutions that you're providing. So I get that metric. I'm like, okay, these are people that are actually telling me that they are watching me and that they are interested. These are also the same people that if I were going to host a webinar or a free event, I can invite all of them manually if for some reason I have low sign up rates, but also likely because they're active with me, they're also the ones that are going to sign up because so I have a ton of data right there. And then for them, this is my opportunity to expedite that relationship. If they are new to my email list or have been hanging out for a really long time and they like my content but have never actually talked to me before, I guarantee you, especially if you are a coach or a consultant, that one conversation is going to make it so much more likely that they're going to become clients by the end of the year because that's how you're nurturing instead of just passively sending content. In fact, I have a stat here. In 2023, I did maybe like 1 to 2 Q&A days a quarter, and 100% of the people who took part in my Q&A days became a client by the end of the year. 100% from that one Q&A day. So it expedites that relationship and makes sure nurturing is actually happening. And then
Yeah.
sales. Again, how are we truly selling? Meaning, I'm not talking about passively posting an Instagram story and say, if you're interested in hopping on a free call with me to chat about working together, do so here. I love that for you. And I hope that you keep doing that because that's just making it clear that you sell things. But I'm talking about specific sales events. Are we launching? Are we doing a campaign of sales emails? Do we have something automated hooked up that is actually being seen by people? Like we actually need specific sales events. So if we do not make sales, we have data to determine why. Once we can answer these three questions, what are we doing? What does growth actually mean? And what are we doing to achieve that? What does nurturing actually mean? And what are we doing to achieve that? What does selling actually mean? And what are we doing to achieve that? We can look at all this marketing shit that we've done, that we're doing, and just cross out the shits that's not part of any of those systems, right? If it's not part of any of it, we don't need to do it, or we don't need to do it right now, right? So for
Mhm.
me, that's like the first thing that I do. Let's audit this. What's actually part of this and feeding my bottom line? And what are we crossing out? Because now it's just taking our time and not actually adding to anything.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I love this. Okay, so I was having so many thoughts. I was like, how am I going to remember all of these thoughts? But I didn't want to break your flow because that was so good. Um, yes to the growth must be on your email list. Y'all, if you've been listening to the podcast, you hear me talk about this all the time because that's what we do. Funnels, right? Growing your email list, having to have that free thing or that coupon code or like whatever makes sense for your business to get them on your email list. Cause I don't know if you know that my Instagram was hacked a couple of years ago and I lost everything.
I did not know that. Oh my
Everything. Yes.
God.
20,000 followers gone, years of content gone, like everything was gone. And so that's why I'm just like, oh my gosh, must bring them to your email list. So I love
Wow.
that you said that. The nurturing piece, something that popped into my head that literally just yesterday, we were on our little team meeting that we do on every Monday. And I said, you know what? I want to start keeping track of the people that are coming to our coaching calls. Now, these are currently paid people right now. We do actually throw in a few free coaching calls for like, hey, we're doing a pop-up. We'll evaluate your lead magnet or your brand guide. So we'll like do some of those, but I was like, I want to keep track because
Yeah.
these people that are engaging, they're sticking around, right?
Yep.
And so if they're not, so like we're taking a roll call now, right? Like if you're paying for our monthly coaching support and you're not showing up, then I want to be reaching out to you. Hey,
Yes.
checking in. Like I sent multiple one-on-one personal emails yesterday
Yep.
to just connect with these people who haven't shown up to the calls. And I'm like, either did you forget that you were paying for this or, you know, did something happen? And like, I want to know. I want to like, if I, so like my book is called Sell While You Sleep, but literally if I just like set up a system and like sold well and did nothing, I would actually be so sad. Like I really want to connect with people. I want to talk with people. I want
Yeah.
to get into their business. So I have to have this one-on-one component or group component to like fill my cup and make me happy. Right. And so doing these one-off emails. So I love that you're doing these nurturing events and providing. And you said once a quarter, like that feels so doable. It doesn't have to be once a week or even once a month, like start with once a quarter. And I think that's powerful. And oftentimes I will find when I'm in a cycle of not connecting and no one is responding, I get in these slumps of, what is the point of my business? Is anybody even listening? Am I even helping anyone? Should I be doing this? What am I doing wrong? And so it's like you put yourself in these spirals. So I think doing these little events or taking these extra steps to try and connect, to have what you say conversations, whether it's in
Yes.
DMs or emails or whatever, will just make you feel better, really, and help you get all the things you talked about, right? Like it's market research, it's all of these things, but then you can find yourself avoiding those slumps of like wondering if you should even be doing this business, right? Because you're like, is anyone listening? So, any thoughts on that before
1000%.
we go into sales?
Yes. Okay. Well, you just said something about like, oh, I sent a bunch of personal emails yesterday. You know what I mean? And I really want to highlight that because when I think the reason nurturing is particularly important. I know this probably doesn't apply to you specifically, but for anyone listening, nurturing events are particularly important to the person who doesn't feel like they have a big email list or they don't have a big audience. Because when you know who is showing up to these events or signing up but not attending, or just like touching your content in any way, and you have it because it's an event, you can see it versus, oh, they're not liking, that's just such a different thing. I can actually see who's signing up and not attending. Now you actually have the data and the information to reach out to them. You have that option to reach out to them and personally invite them, right? And when you do that, you also make them feel seen and heard within your business, which that in itself is insanely powerful when it comes to sales, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is a whole other reason why I value nurturing events versus just sending content passively or posting content passively. Because in addition to nurturing faster, right, creating those relationships faster, you have that data to be able to strategically make the next move if something doesn't work out the way you hoped it would. And let's face it, at the beginning of our business or when we don't have massive audiences, that can happen a lot. We want to have those plan Bs and Cs in place so that so that the size of our audience can become irrelevant for at least the period of time that we are growing at. So I just wanted to highlight that piece for anyone who's like, oh, personal invitations, I don't want to do that. No, you do, my friend. You do. I promise you, you do. It's going to help you grow your business. And maybe you won't do that forever. For all I know, you're going to have hundreds of thousands of people on your email list and no issues getting people to show up to anything in a few years' time. But
Right.
that takes time. There's a period. And so I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah. Well, and there's cycles, right? Like I've been at this long enough, over 10 years, to know that there's cycles in business.
Yeah.
So if you are starting your business and you started it in the last couple years, you started it in a hard spot. Like, let's just be honest.
100%.
It's not just you, it's
100%.
not just me, it's not like
Yep.
we're all collect. I mean, maybe there's a few outliers out there, but we've all seen this sort of downward trend in our businesses. And
Yeah.
so you have to be willing to do these things in different cycles. Maybe it's a few months, maybe it's over the summer months. Your business is always slow. And so you do some of these personal outreaches in the summer, or
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
it's a year time in an economic, or like, we're recording this before the election. So this will come out after, but it's like always before the election. It's like you have to do these more personal connections to try and get more business for your business. So there's cycles. You have to be willing to do some of these things. And so the question is, yes, how can we stay focused? And I love that you're just like capturing these three areas. And how can we have our business set up in a way that allows us the time to do that, right? Like we support people with like setting up your automated funnel on your website to look professional. So you can have the time to now, hey, I want to send 3 personal emails to people
Yes.
and like check in and see what they're doing. It doesn't have to be massive. And I don't do that every day. It was just like, hey, I have some time. I'm looking at this to see who's been showing up and who's not. I'm curious what's been going on. I know I saw on Instagram this student had a health crisis, a month back, and I still haven't heard anything. I want to check in and see how she's doing and see how she's healing and see how I can support her, right?
Yep.
Just even if it's not business related, and just connect on that level. So I spent time sending her a message and like someone else, because everyone has things that happen, like we talked about in the beginning. So just like checking in on that. So
Yes.
making sure.
Relationship building is like key. And I think you're so right about the cycles thing, because that's so true. Like, even though I've been doing this now for a really long time, I still like, I happily send personal invites and build relationships, because you're right. There's like phases of business, there's changes and pivots and all kinds of things that we're all lucky to be able to navigate. And the relationships that you've built in your audience, both with collaborators, which is very linked to what you're doing for growth, as well as people within your community, which is very linked to sales as well, is key, is pivotal.
Mhm.
And each of these categories actually, in my opinion, in different ways, but they nurture relationship.
Yeah. Okay. So, question on social media relation to what you're talking about in these three areas.
Yeah.
How and when are you determining what you're talking about in terms of content to share that message about what you're doing and how you can serve people versus the message of come to this nurturing event, or making sure people are aware throughout so they can get excited about it versus selling content? Are
Mhm.
you doing all of those on your social media as well?
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you asked that question, because I don't know if you saw me put a little note on my notepad, but that was what I was like, let me make sure I say
Oh,
this. So I'm
no.
so glad you asked this question. Okay. So Yes and no, right? When I am in a sales period and I have a launch or something like that, I'm absolutely using my social media before my launch period to really talk about the messaging that is associated with the thing that I'm selling when my cart opens and when my launch period starts. So I'm using social media strategically there to share my message around that sales period. I also do use it to invite people to my nurture events. And more specifically, though, for me, when I did my audit, my growth, my nurturing, and my sales, what I saw so clearly was my social media was not the needle mover when it came to the sales. It was not, and again, I want to stress this everyone's will do their own audit of themselves and see something different, right? So just because I'm sharing what I see, but that doesn't mean that's what it is for you. So I just want to stress that. So for me, my social media was not the needle mover when it came to my sales. My social media was somewhat the needle mover when it came to my nurturing and building relationships with my people who were buying from me, but also not the main source.
Mhm.
My social media was pivotal when it came to growth because I was meeting collaborators on my social media. So,
Mhm.
because of my social media content, I was meeting people that were perfect for my podcast, that were just great people to know, that were becoming affiliates and referrals, that were becoming people that was inviting onto my summit, that were inviting me onto their summit. It became the needle mover for my growth. But again, not because all I was growing by massive amounts of followers and converting into my email list, because
Mm.
I was meeting the other people that had big followers that were saying, damn, I really love your perspective on this. Like this is a fresh way of talking about marketing. I haven't heard someone talk about this. I love how against hacks you are. Like they were just like calling out things that I was saying and saying this really resonates with me. I'd love to talk about your point of view with my audience. Do you feel open to that?
Mm.
So when I saw that, I shifted my social media strategy completely. And now I share my message and I do all those things, but I know that one of the key reasons I'm doing that is because this is how I easily communicate what I'm about and the knowledge that I have to the people that I'm pitching to and to the people that I'm trying to build relationships with. So when I do send a pitch or when I do all those things, I share my social media. I'm like, you're going to get a really clear sense of what I'm about if you click here. That's why I do a lot of speaking to camera. That's why I'm in my Instagram stories showing my personality because I want them to feel like, okay, not only does this chick like know what the fuck she's talking about, but she's like sounds like a normal human. She's not a robot here. I can't wait to have her on my podcast, you know? So actually, it's a strategy for my collaborators more than it is my ideal clients. I
Ooh.
have figured out where my ideal clients are, right? And I take care of that in my other aspects, but that's what my social media is about. This is another reason why for me, I don't have to post once a day. I don't even have to post once a week sometimes if I'm on vacation because I know my collaborators are taking vacations too, right? So I can really figure out how I'm showing up, when I'm showing up, and what that looks like.
I love this fresh perspective. And again, I've talked about it a little bit, but how social, well, probably more so with our clients and students, that you have to figure out like where social media fits its role. And like, is it your top of funnel where you're just bringing in ideal customers? Or is it a place where you're showing up, showing that you're professional so that when you're out there trying to get media, they
Yeah,
come and they sort of see a bit of what you're doing. So I love that you're in your mind and how you're leveraging your Instagram is really for the collaborative effort.
mhm.
And I'm sure you're bringing in some customers as well in the
Totally.
process because like
Yeah,
we get to do that as well. But I love this perspective of how you're leveraging it and to give other people an idea that it's okay. We don't have to go viral. We don't have to have 500 comments on our post to like be doing things. Like you could leverage social in this way if
hmm,
that resonates with you. Because we've had Holly Hillier on here before to talk about Instagram, and she is very like the other, where she
yes,
is bringing in tons of customers and having those like 600 comments on her posts and things like that. And so I
yes.
love that, like, hey, that doesn't have to be you. And if that is, that's great and okay. And I'll link that episode in this show notes here. But like, this could be your avenue. Like, this could be how you're showing up. So such a fresh perspective on how if you've been trying other ways and other things that haven't been working and this just really resonates with you today, take this as your sign that this is maybe how you should lean in or how you might want to lean in to the social aspect and leveraging social media. I think this is a great place to just sort of end. We've talked about a ton of amazing things here, and I just want to let it soak in with the audience. Like, y'all, you might need to go back and just re-listen on like, a 1.5 speed or something to just like get it again. But you have two gifts for us. So I
Mhm.
want you to share those with the audience because they kind of depend on where you're at. So if you could share those with us, where people can connect with you, this was incredible.
Yes, I would love to. Okay, so I have two different gifts as Chrissy said around like depending on where you're at, one will be better than the other. So the first one is kind of like it's not a private podcast, but I've pulled 6 specific episodes which were done intentionally in a series, so you know that they're complete, right? Of a series that I did called Sorry Not Sorry. Sorry, I still love the name. Anyways, and it's my opportunity to give you some real talk around the things inside of your marketing that are working really well, but mainly the stuff that's not working really well and why. So we get really deep into lazy growth strategies and like the fact that I looked high and low for a message and I couldn't find one and what the fuck to do instead. So each one gives you like a short 10-minute homework assignment at the end of each 20-minute episode. To help you take action on each of those things. So I've given Christy a link and I've dropped, and she's dropped it in the show notes. And then the second gift is more for the person who maybe is like has listened to this and it's just like, wow, this is really resonating with me. I feel like I have a lot of these things in place, but I'm trying to figure out how to make them all work together, or I'm trying to understand why they're not working together. So maybe a lot of this felt familiar, but the cohesiveness is still lacking, or it's not as effective as you want it to be. I'm actually hosting these very limited for a limited time only. I'm probably not going to do them into 2025. So this is definitely like well, we'll see. Click the link and see if it's still open, but they're called client attraction audits. These are completely free one-to-one calls where we're actually going to look at your client attraction ecosystem. We're going to audit it and identify 1 to 3 crucial next steps to help it to work better. And if in that process, you're also going to be crystal clear if working with me further is even something that you want to think about. But if it's not, it doesn't even matter because you're going to walk away with a great game plan to actually fix your ecosystem so that it works for you and brings in qualified leads that are excited to work with you. So the first one, the podcast, is really for the person who's like, I love it. And also, what the fuck? And the second one is for the person who's like, I get it. This is resonating. And also, I don't know how to make it all work together. Help me. So 2 options depending on where you're at.
Oh my God. I love it. This is incredible. This has just resonated with me a whole lot more. And it's like, I know we all have this knowledge and then we get busy and then we're like, wait, we have to go back and remember what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and like re-audit some things. So I love that this message resonated with me as well. That means it's definitely resonating with some of the listeners out there to just go back and really audit where we're doing, what we're doing, how we're doing it, to make sure that it works and is sustainable for us. So Sophia, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you so much and having this chat with us. Y'all do not forget to grab one, if not both of those gifts, because they could both be so valuable for you depending on where you're at. And where can we find you and hang out with you?
Well, you guessed it. I love social media. So you will find me on Instagram. I love hanging out there. My handle is Sophia Parra, and my podcast is Marketing Unfiltered, which is also probably my favorite place to connect with people. So one of those 2 places are a great place to start.
Incredible. Sophia, thank you again. Remember, everyone out there listening, go take some imperfect action today so you can succeed tomorrow.
Bye.
Cool. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you got some value out of this episode, I would love some support. And the best way to do that so I can keep showering you with loads of actionable tips is to hit that subscribe button. Leave a review or a comment if you're on YouTube and share this podcast with a friend. And when you share it with a friend on social, please tag me so I can reshare your share in my stories. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out. I appreciate the heck out of you for showing up. And now it's time for you to take imperfect action so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more.